Satisfaction. Inspired by Dr. Travis Dixon. Satisfaction is a feeling of contentment, gratification, or happiness that comes from fulfilling a need, want, or desire. It can also refer to the fulfillment of an obligation, the payment of a debt, or the act of making amends for a wrong. The term is used in various contexts, including emotions, contentment, business, customer satisfaction, and law, fulfillment of an obligation. In emotion and psychology. Contentment. A pleasant feeling resulting from a fulfilled desire or need. Gratification. A source of enjoyment or a means of being pleased. Fulfillment. The act of satisfying or the state of being satisfied. In law and business. Fulfillment of an obligation. The discharge of a legal or contractual duty. Payment. The discharge of a debt or claim. Compensation. Reparation or restitution for a loss or injury. Customer satisfaction. A metric used in business to measure how happy customers are with the product or service. Other contexts. Satisfaction, logic. The process or outcome of assigning values to variables in a formula. Satisfaction, theology. In Christianity, it can refer to the satisfaction theory of atonement or the making of reparation for sin. Satisfaction, music. Refers to songs by artists like Benny Benassi and the Rolling Stones. Satisfaction, TV series refers to a specific television show that aired from 2014 to 2015. What does satisfaction mean in the Bible? In the Bible, satisfaction is the state of contentment and fulfillment found through a relationship with God, where He meets one's deepest needs and desires. It is distinct from the temporary pleasure of worldly things and is instead rooted in God's presence, provision, and the pursuit of righteousness. Key scriptures link satisfaction to a life of godliness, emphasizing that true fulfillment is found in God's presence and His provision for His people. Key aspects of biblical satisfaction. Spiritual contentment. The Bible teaches that true satisfaction is a spiritual and emotional state resulting from aligning one's life with God's will. God as the ultimate provider. God is presented as the one who satisfies the longing soul and fills the hungry soul with good things, both spiritually and physically. Joy in God's presence. The Bible says that in God's presence is fullness of joy and pleasures forevermore, indicating that eternal joy is found in Him. Satisfaction through righteousness. Jesus states, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied." This shows that a life of pursuit for what is right leads to ultimate fulfillment. Contentment in all circumstances. Believers are encouraged to be content with their circumstances, knowing that God will never leave or forsake them, as seen in 1 Timothy 6:6, 8 and Hebrews 13:5. Where true satisfaction is found. In Christ, Jesus declares, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty." John 6:35. He is the ultimate source of spiritual and eternal satisfaction. In God's provision. God satisfies our needs and blesses our labor, showing that true satisfaction is connected to His good and generous provision. In a relationship with God. A life lived in reverence to God leads to rest and contentment, as stated in Proverbs 19:23, "The fear of the Lord leads to life, and whoever has it rests satisfied, he will not be visited by harm." What is the synonym of satisfaction? An act of satisfying, fulfillment, gratification. The state of being satisfied, contentment. Synonyms: enjoyment, comfort, pleasure. Antonyms: discontent, displeasure. What makes someone feel truly satisfied? Research shows that higher levels of mindfulness predict happier, more satisfying relationships, which, in turn, increases your overall satisfaction in life. So being mindful and working on your relationships intentionally is one of the best starting points for reaping the benefits of a happier life. What makes someone feel truly satisfied? Research shows that higher levels of mindfulness predict happier, more satisfying relationships, which, in turn, increases your overall satisfaction in life. So being mindful and working on your relationships intentionally is one of the best starting points for reaping the benefits of a happier life. What words express great satisfaction? Noun. Contentment. Enjoyment. Pleasure. Happiness. Content. Delight. Joy. Gratification. Is satisfaction the same as happiness? Kahneman contends that happiness and satisfaction are distinct. Happiness is a momentary experience that arises spontaneously and is fleeting. Meanwhile, satisfaction is a long-term feeling, built over time and based on achieving goals and building the kind of life you admire. What is the key to satisfaction? Strong relationships, a sense of purpose, and effective stress management are key contributors to life satisfaction. What are the 5 barriers to satisfaction? Common barriers to customer satisfaction include poor communication, inadequate product/service quality, unresponsive customer service, lack of personalization, difficulty in resolving problems, and mismatched expectations. What brings true satisfaction? It is proposed that overall life satisfaction comes from within an individual based on the individual's values associated with better physical health, higher performance, and stronger social relationships. What is the 5x5 rule of happiness? The 5x5 rule of happiness is a mental tool that helps manage stress by advising you not to worry about something for more than 5 minutes if it won't matter in 5 years. It's a way to gain perspective on minor frustrations and avoid getting caught up in things that have no long-term impact on your life. How to apply the 5x5 rule? Ask the question, when you feel stressed or anxious about a situation, ask yourself, will this matter in 5 years? Timebox your worry. If the answer is no, limit your worry or rumination to no more than 5 minutes. Contextualize your stress. This simple rule helps you determine if your anxiety is rational in the moment and if it's worth your emotional energy. Example of how it works. You might get into a minor argument with a coworker. If you apply the 5x5 rule, you would recognize that this small conflict will likely not be significant in 5 years. Therefore, you should only spend a few minutes being upset about it before moving on. What is a famous quote on satisfaction? He who is not satisfied with a little is satisfied with nothing. If curiosity killed the cat, it was satisfaction that brought it back. What is the most powerful word for happy? Stronger words for happy include ecstatic, euphoric, jubilant, and elated, which describe intense joy and excitement. For a more complete, peaceful happiness, blissful is a very strong option, while overjoyed simply means very happy. Words for intense, exciting happiness. Ecstatic. Feeling or expressing overwhelming rapture or joy. Euphoric. An overwhelming feeling of happiness or well-being. It can sometimes imply a state of intense, almost spiritual, happiness. Jubilant. Feeling or expressing great happiness and triumph, often after a success. Elated. In high spirits or exultantly proud and joyful. Words for peaceful, complete happiness. Blissful. Feeling complete and utter happiness, often in a tranquil way. Joyful. Producing or full of great happiness. Other strong synonyms. Overjoyed. Simply means very happy and is a strong and direct alternative. Thrilled. Feeling a sudden, intense feeling of excitement and pleasure. Exultant. Expressing great happiness or triumph. What is the root word for satisfaction? The root words of satisfaction are the Latin words satis, meaning enough, and facere, meaning to make or to do. The word's origin lies in the Latin satis facere, which literally means to do enough, and the concept of fulfillment has been present since the word's early use. Satis. This Latin root means enough, adequate, or sufficient. Facere. This Latin root means to make or to do. Combined. The two roots combine to mean to make enough, or to fulfill. Why is satisfaction important in life? Meaning in life, life role importance, life strain, and life. Life satisfaction is important because it is linked to better physical health, longevity, and mental well-being. High life satisfaction is associated with a reduced risk of mortality, better health behaviors like physical activity, improved mood, optimism, and lower levels of depression, loneliness, and stress. It is a key component of overall well-being that positively influences your ability to handle stress and achieve goals. Physical and mental health benefits. Longevity. Individuals with high life satisfaction have a reduced risk of mortality. Better health behaviors. High life satisfaction is linked to more physical activity and fewer sleep problems. Improved mental health. It is associated with higher positive affect, optimism, and a sense of purpose, while also decreasing depression, anxiety, and hopelessness. Stress reduction. Life satisfaction can act as a protective factor, moderating the negative impact of stress on mental health. Influence on other areas of life. Relationships. Harmonious social connections are linked to both happiness and health. Success. People who are happier often achieve greater success in other areas, including their careers and relationships. Overall well-being. It is a fundamental part of overall well-being, impacting how you handle life's challenges and your ability to reach your goals. What determines 90% of our happiness? 90% of our happiness is determined not by our genes or environment, but by our perception of the world. Can you be satisfied without being happy? Happiness and contentment are two separate states, although extremely closely linked. You can be content with everything in your life, but not feel that fleeting emotion of happiness. What is the secret to satisfaction? Equation 3, satisfaction equals what you have divided by what you want. Satisfaction will always be just beyond our grasp, forcing us to strive even more. According to the professor, the secret to satisfaction is to focus on the denominator of equation 3. Quit obsessing about your haves and instead manage your wants. The key to a happy life is all in the equations, 3 to be exact. It may seem a bit out of place to be discussing keys to a happy life in the midst of a worldwide pandemic, social unrest, and economic upheaval. However, this may just be the perfect time to ponder pathways to happiness, especially since we may have a bit more personal time on our hands with working from home and social distancing. Arthur C. Brooks, professor of the practice of public leadership at the Harvard Kennedy School, a senior fellow at Harvard Business School, and host of the podcast The Art of Happiness with Arthur Brooks, offers 3 equations for well-being which, in his opinion, are vital to know in order to start managing your own happiness more proactively. Let's take a look at his 3 equations to jumpstart you on a journey towards a happier life. Equation 1. Subjective well-being equals genes plus circumstances plus habits. Subjective well-being is what sociologists refer to when assessing one's level of happiness. It is how people experience and evaluate their lives and specific domains and activities in their lives. As Dr. Brooks puts it, subjective well-being answers the question taken all together: how would you say things are these days? Would you say that you are very happy, pretty happy, or not too happy? Research has shown that there is a huge genetic component in determining your set point for your subjective well-being, the baseline you always seem to return to after events sway your mood. Psychologists David Leakin and Octa Legend estimate that the genetic component of a person's well-being is between 44 and 52%, a guideline determined from an exhaustive study of twins, which included identical twins reared apart and then tested as adults. The percentile impact on subjective well-being by the other 2 components, circumstances and habits, is not as easy to nail down. Research is all over the board on what percentage each part represents. The circumstances of one's life can make up as little as 10% and as much as 40%. However, the effects of circumstances are fleeting, so most scholars think the impact on happiness is not as pronounced. For instance, getting a big promotion or having an increase in income does not guarantee long-term happiness. It feels awesome in the moment, but then we get used to our new circumstances rapidly and then return to a happiness set point. Think about the feeling purchasing a new car or house and then how you felt 1 year later. Dr. Brooks says that focusing on genes or circumstances is not very productive, for these things are mostly beyond our control. One variable that is under our control and which greatly affects our long-term well-being is habits, which leads us to equation 2. Equation 2, habits equals faith plus family plus friends plus work. Dr. Brooks has distilled equation 2 from thousands of academic studies and is convinced that it is accurate, though some scholars dispute it as too crude. In his words, enduring happiness comes from human relationships, productive work, and the transcendental elements of life. The key to the first variable, faith, is to find a structure through which you can ponder life's deeper questions and transcend a focus on your narrow self-interests to serve others. Many different faiths and secular life philosophies offer the happiness edge. Find the one that best motivates you to shift your focus. For the family and friends variables, the key is to cultivate and maintain loving, faithful relationships with other people. The extraordinary Harvard study, which followed graduates over a 75-year period, looking at all aspects of their health and well-being, showed that people who have loving relationships with family and friends thrive. Conversely, those who do not have these relationships fail to thrive. The final variable in the equation is work, which may be surprising. However, happiness research overwhelmingly finds that productive human endeavors create a sense of purpose in life and are a key component of happiness. The kind of work is less important than the level of fulfillment, meaning, does the work give you a sense that you are earning your success and serving others? Equation 3, satisfaction equals what you have divided by what you want. We try to achieve higher levels of satisfaction by increasing what we have, by working, spending, and on, according to Dr. Brooks. But this is pure futility, for we will never be satisfied with obtaining status quo. Satisfaction will always be just beyond our grasp, forcing us to strive even more. According to the professor, the secret to satisfaction is to focus on the denominator of equation 3. Quit obsessing about your haves and instead manage your wants. Do not count your possessions, or money, power, prestige, romantic partners, or fame, and try to figure out how to increase them. Instead, make an inventory of your worldly desires and try to decrease them. He posits that the fewer wants there are screaming inside your brain and dividing your attention, the more peace and satisfaction will be left for what you already have. Take a moment to analyze these three equations and determine where you can tweak some of the variables to increase the happiness in your life. Can you introduce some new, positive habits in equation 1? Can you make a positive increase in one or more of the variables in equation 2? Are you able to make a bucket list of attachments you need to discard in equation 3 so that you find greater peace and satisfaction? What are the 5 levels of satisfaction? What are the 5 levels of customer satisfaction? Not satisfied. It is pretty simple. Slightly satisfied. A slightly satisfied customer may have some expectations that are being met but others are not. Satisfied. A satisfied customer is one who gets what they expect. Very satisfied. Extremely satisfied. What brings the most satisfaction in life? Indeed, there is evidence that those earning more, having better relationships, and being in more robust health tend to rate their life satisfaction slightly higher than those earning less, lacking strong relationships, or having poor health. What is the difference between agree and strongly agree? Understanding the difference, scores of strongly agree vs. On the Likert scale, agree is positioned below strongly agree but still indicates a positive inclination towards the statement. Respondents who choose this option generally agree with the statement, but their level of agreement may be less intense or definitive compared to those who select strongly agree. What are the 5 levels of importance? Customer information. Extremely unimportant. Somewhat unimportant. Neither important nor unimportant. Somewhat important. Extremely important. What are the 5 major barriers? Definition of barriers. There are 5 key barriers that can occur within a company: language, cultural diversity, gender differences, status differences, and physical separation. What does Jesus say about satisfaction? Jesus says, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied." Paul says, "Not that I am speaking of being in need, for I have learned in whatever situation I am to be content." Copyright 2025 BASuccess.org, BAS. Sharing, research, digitization, conservation of what we have learned. Educational purpose only. Listen, learn, share. All right reserved.